if you could rewind the clocks, would you have started off with the syndication instead of going at it personally? Or do you feel that doing your own, personally funded complexes out there and units out there gave you that experience and street cred that you really needed to then bring to the investors to make you more successful with their money?
So actually, if I could roll back the clock, I would start with a syndication. But for me, I didn't say I don't want to do a syndication for my first one, right? I said I'm looking for a good deal. Doesn't matter if I'm going to find something that I can do by myself, if I can find something medium-sized that I can do with 2 or 3 partners, or if it's something large that I'm going to need more partners and it's going to be a syndication, right? And I tell that to everybody that talks to me and asks the exact same question. It's kind of like, don't limit yourself. Always look at the deal from the perspective of, I'm going to put that much money, that much time, and I'm going to get this much in return. Does it worth my time? Does it worth my money? Right? And if it's a syndication, it's a syndication. If it's a single transaction, it's a single transaction. We bought a smaller property after we did the first syndication, right? They're not mutually exclusive, right? It's about the right deal. So that's that. And in terms of street cred, yes and no. So sometimes when you say you have a 20 unit, it counts some for street cred, but it's not the same thing as running a 100 or 200 unit property. Right. So in our case, we had to lean heavily on the experience of our third-party property management company that's been doing that for 35 years and have thousands of units under their management umbrella. Right. And what we do is asset management, and that's where we get into the distinction a little bit. The way the metaphor I give everybody is Olympic athletes. Right. When you have an Olympic athlete, these guys are at the top of their profession, right? It's a top 0.5% of all athletes in the world. But they have coaches too, right? Can their coach run faster than them, throw the ball longer, swim longer distances? No. What the coach brings in is accountability. It's a big picture view. It's dropping the balls that every once in a while inevitably people drop. Right? And it's navigating the big boat, right? The captain of the boat is not in the engine room. He is navigating the boat from the bridge. And that's what we do. So we give that 3 to 5% increase in performance to our Olympic athletes. And that's how Olympic athletes bring in the gold.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So then, it sounds like when we'll kind of break these down separately because there's so many different things that need to happen to create success with this, right? I mean, number one, you got to, of course, find the right deal, the right property. You got to be able to go out there and find, if you're doing a syndication, you got to be able to go out there and find these investors that are willing to invest with you. Then, like you said, you got to be able to identify and find a really good, strong property manager. There's a lot of just key things that all need to come together to create this success. So let's maybe start with just the syndication, right? For somebody that's wanting to get involved with this and wanting to, take it to that level, what are some things that have worked for you as far as identifying those relationships and initially even structuring those deals? I got to imagine as your portfolio grows and your reputation grows, those deals can get more weighted on your side, where in the beginning you might take very little and then, right, that might increase with the percentage of ownerships. But for somebody that's starting out and wanting to do this, like, what would your recommendations be to start?
Well, I'd start with finding and building the right team. Real estate is a team sport. So find your property management, find your transaction lawyer, find your securities lawyer, find your commercial brokers, right? Because without that team, you're going nowhere. There's no one person that can do all of it, right? So I'd start with that. Go out and interview 5, 6, 10 property management company, interview lawyers. Tell them, here, this is what I want to do, what you would recommend, because these are going to be your advocates, but these are also going to be your guardrails, right? And I personally, and like most of your listeners, I'm sure, I'm a very assertive person, an alpha type kind of personality. if I'll have people that will just surround me and say yes, then I'm missing the guardrails. I'm missing the checks and balances. So I had to build a team that tells me, hey, don't do that, or challenges my decisions and asks me the questions that I might have not considered, right? And I can tell you that I've walked away from a property after putting over $10,000 in legal fees and inspection fees because my property management company told me this is not a good spot, this is not a good economy for the town, walk away. So I walked away. I better lose some money now than to lose a lot of money there, right? And to tie it back to your questions about taking a smaller piece of the pie, the way I look at things is a small piece of the pie is better than a big piece of no pie.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it, which is why partnerships come into play. And yes, you know what? You can do it all by yourself and you'll buy a 20 unit and a few years later you'll buy a 30 unit, maybe get to a 50 unit, but you'll never scale as much as you can scale with bringing in partners, right? So you need those partners. So that's the other thing that you need to do is if you want to consider a syndication is build those relationships with potential investors. Know who would be willing to back you up, know who would be willing to take a risk with you, even though it's your first one. Know how to help them understand that whatever areas you're not experienced at, you have found the right team member to compensate for that. Right? And that's really where the hard work is on the first syndication is getting the people to invest in you, not in the property.